Hello, and thank you for tuning into Her Brand, Her Way, where we amplify the voices of women, specifically women who are making a difference in the world and using their powers for good. Her Brand, Her Way was created to highlight women who have activated their purpose and are building their dynamic brands. I truly believe that by coming together and sharing our stories, we can inspire and empower each other to reach new heights. I'm your host, Glennis Jones. In this episode, I'm chatting with Theresa Bruce, a champion of student voice, educational equity, and teacher wholeness. Theresa is not your average school librarian, but she's a powerhouse making waves in her community through her brand of creativity and passion for literacy. Not only is she the inaugural library media specialist within her school community, she also serves as a member of the Baltimore City Mayoral Trauma-Informed Care Task Force. Theresa and I had a great conversation about how she's building her brand and breaking down barriers and stereotypes of school librarians. You're going to enjoy this one. Hello, Theresa. How are you?
I'm great. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Just thank you so much for taking time out to talk with me. So y'all, I wanted to talk to Theresa because she is doing some amazing things in her community, specifically in education. Theresa also holds a special place in my heart because we are sorors. And I've also been following Theresa, lit_librarian_87 on IG. I wanted to make sure I got that right. Because I've been enjoying watching Theresa. She has literally built this library from like a room of boxes to this full library. So in addition to that, she's attending conferences and workshops, and just her enthusiasm around education and books and authors and her community and her students. I've just been really intrigued by that. So I wanted to spend some time to talk with her about how she has been positioning herself and building her brand in the education space. So that's what we are talking with Miss Theresa Bruce about today. But before we get into formal introductions and all that, Theresa, I have one question, okay?
Yeah.
We're gonna pop it off with this. How would you describe your brand in 3 words? Go.
3 words. That's really hard for a librarian who spends their time like reading books and words and interfacing. But I would say my brand is authentic. What you see is what you get. It's personable because of that authenticity, right? Like it feels very relatable, and it's joyous. I find joy in my work, and that often exudes when I'm posting things online or speaking with people.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So authentic, enthusiasm. Did I get that right?
Close. What? Authentic, personable, and joyous.
We go edit that. Authentic, personable, and joyous.
Yeah.
So I want you all to remember those 3 words and just listen as we go through this conversation and just see how that truly just aligns with Miss Bruce and her brand. So Theresa, can you share with us a little bit about yourself, what you do, all that good stuff?
So I am an educator, like my founders, and I teach in an urban school system. I spent my first 2 years when I was in grad school working as a teaching assistant in the South Side of Chicago. I moved back to Baltimore because I'm originally from Baltimore City. I moved back to Baltimore City to teach because I have degrees in policy and a whole host of other things, but policy and education policy is my passion. And so I moved back and I started as a middle school social studies teacher, and I still have that active certification. And then during the pandemic, I really became captivated by librarians. So even as a social studies teacher, I used the first 20 minutes of every class for independent reading. I built a whole program around independent choice-based reading for middle schoolers. We're talking 7th and 8th graders, young people who say they don't like reading. And I had much success with it, so much so that during the pandemic, I was like, maybe this librarian thing is like for me. And so I immediately on a whim enrolled in a postmaster certification program, and here we are. I am a librarian. It is what I do. My school has never had a library or a librarian. So I've literally been building for the last year and a half the program from the ground up. So anything you can think of, mission, vision, collection development, even the circulation system itself, choosing one. I've been interning with other school librarians, traveling to conferences, doing all of those things to figure out what is the best way, the most equitable way, the best practice of running a huge pre-K through 8 library program, because I have 1,400 students and over 200 staff members that I am currently responsible for. And we're working to expand that model, that employee model, which I'm also in charge of, because I have 4 main roles as a school librarian, and one of them is program administrator.
Wow, wow, wow. So that's a lot. Because, you know, when I think of library, I'm thinking back to like card catalog. Like that's what I go all the way back there. So that's why I'm
Not
so
pulling the
fascinated.
drawer, we're not, no.
I'm so fascinated because I'm like, it, you know, just kind of your work and just being a school librarian, and then just it seems like just bringing so much life to that. And that was actually one of the things I wanted to ask about, what you already mentioned, was that you, in your bio, said you are the inaugural library media specialist in your community. So being the first there, and it's just you. Is that my understanding?
Currently, yes.
Wow. So does like each grade have library time, and then you have to plan for that and make time for that?
Sort of. So I mentioned there's 4 roles to a librarian. I am a teacher, right? Like I do have some fixed classes. I am an instructional partner, meaning I collaborate with other teachers. I'm a program administrator, meaning I run the library program for the school. And if there are any employees, I oversee them. So when I say employees, I mean like a library assistant. Those are typically the people you see doing like circulation, like they'll check out books for you, they'll reshelve them, they can help with programming, things of that nature. And then my last role is around instructional technology. I am also the person who helps with the instructional technology that we use in the school. And so currently, like I said, there is just me. And the model that I have chosen for us to use is known as a fixed flex model. It means that I have some fixed classes, so some kids that I see on a regular schedule, and then I have flex time. So this is just open time where any teacher, regardless of their grade level or their content, can just be like, hey, I got an idea for a project. Can we come do this? Or, hey, I'm doing research right now. Can you come in and teach a lesson on research with my young people? Or I got this really cool idea for a field trip to the library to do this, this, and this. Can you set that up for me? Right? That is my goal. And that is what I do in addition to running programming school-wide.
Wow. That is amazing. That's awesome. That's very exciting. Kudos to you and your amazing work. One of the things I did want to talk about is just kind of the brand journey. So you talked about being a social studies teacher, and then kind of around pandemic time, and kind of just having this new interest in being a librarian. So, and it seems like you're continuously on this journey of just positioning yourself. So can you talk a little bit about, you know, maybe any challenges that you're having, or maybe some even innovative things that you're trying to kind of just continue to position yourself and build your brand in this space?
So I think one of the challenges I face in dealing and like building this brand is it goes back to something you referenced earlier. Like when I think of a librarian, I think of the card catalog, right? And I think of people going in there and doing what? Shh, right? Like that's what people think of libraries. And so when I go to, when I say to people, I'm a school librarian, people are like, what? Come again? Like a real librarian. And so like even my name is lit_librarian_87. And just a month ago, I was speaking with someone that that followed me on social media. And then when they asked me in real life what I did, I said I'm a school librarian. And they were like, no, for real? And I'm like, yeah, I am. That's what I do. And so I face this challenge. One, people, I'm like a unicorn, because not only am I a school librarian, I'm a Black school librarian.
Okay.
And when I go to conferences, there are not that many people that look like me. So that's a challenge that I'm facing in like I'm a librarian, like I exist. The other challenge is getting back to, again, people having an antiquated view of what a librarian does.
Yeah.
That is a challenge. People just think, oh, you just play with kids all day, you just read books. And it's like, there's so much more than that. So those are challenges to building my brand, because I have to shift mindsets, right? Of what a librarian is and what they do and what they can do and how they support schools. But what's really innovative is when you're building a program, right? You have so much flexibility because we've never had this. So teachers don't even know what to expect. So anything I do, they're like, oh my goodness, yes. Or what about this? And so what's been really nice is I mentioned I do instructional tech. One of the innovative things I'm making sure to include as we build our two new library spaces this upcoming summer is to make sure we have a makerspace.
Makerspace.
Libraries need maker spaces. Our young people need to be able to explore, design, experiment, collaborate, right? In a good, safe, healthy, fun place. And so I have really pushed for makerspace. So right now, my library has a 3D printer. Bought it last month. We're printing fidget spinners and name tags and IDs. We have 3D printer pens. We have an entire makerspace cart where you can build car. I had somebody build a robotic car last week. I have robots where we can learn to code and program, and I work in conjunction with a computer science teacher, right? Like these are the things that I do that I think are important as we enhance our student experiences. And so that is a part of my brand. I make sure people know that we have all of these cool things that are, they're fun, but they're also literally helping young people with critical skills.
That's awesome. That's awesome. My boys I think they have a makerspace at their school. But when you were saying that last piece about just being fun for the students, my next thought is, having to compete with technology, right? Like I know the kids can't keep their phones, and they can usually turn on their phones when they're in school, but realizing that beyond just their phone, beyond their tablets, there's other things that they can do, and it is amazing. And it seems like you are working on just helping them realize that, that it doesn't have to be boring, that it can be fun, and helping them to experiment and open their mind to be creative. So I think that is awesome. And I need you to come have a session with my boys so they can.
I do it all. I work on the Sparrows and we design things, and and a lot of this, I'll be honest, I'm also still learning. So that is also a challenge. I switched into a role and then became immediately the expert.
Right. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. But so understanding your passion for education, and then in this, and being in this space, being a librarian, and what is it that keeps you going? Because I can imagine, like when you mentioned about the pandemic and COVID, and that was just a trying time for educators.
Like you see my face.
I really felt for them. I did, especially when the kids were home, and I was I had to figure out, how to make sure their assignments were complete and all that. I was like, I can only imagine, what our educators are going through. And then even after, now there's still, there's still challenges. So I can imagine that at times that's a lot. So, what is it that just keeps you going? I mean, clearly you're passionate about, your work, but, what is it what's that drive for you?
So one, I'm in my home city. So I am a product of Baltimore City Public Schools from grades kindergarten to 12. And Baltimore City gave me the best education that money couldn't buy. Because of my education, excuse me. So I happens when you talk a lot, you got to keep your water bottle handled. Because of my education, I was able to compete at a top 10 university. I went to undergrad free at UMBC. I then transitioned to the University of Chicago, where they paid my tuition and so much more, right? And it was because of an education I received here. But we also know that our school systems aren't equitable. And we know that they especially aren't equitable for people who are in marginalized or minority groups. So, and what we also tend to see is that our young people in urban areas specifically do not have as much access a lot of the time, nor do they have people who look like them, for many years in the classroom, and all of those things really impact their opportunities for growth. And so what keeps me motivated is I want young people to have the teachers I had, right? These amazing teachers who, when I was in elementary school, it was a Title I school. Almost all schools in Baltimore City are Title I, but we're a Title I school, and we really struggled with resources, but those teachers were the best resource. They instilled everything that I needed and set me up for success. So what keeps me going every day is I want to be that person for someone. I want to make sure that our young people have access to what they need and more. I want to make connections between what they're learning in classrooms so that they can apply it to see how it works in real life. That is what is important to me. That's what keeps me going. And of course, every time a kid discovers or rediscovers the joy of reading, my heart flutters. You know, I often tell people, you may have heard of this, but it's the story that I think of all the time, the starfish story. And it's what keeps me going every day. And if you've never heard it, for all of you out there listening, the story loosely retold says, you know, there is a beach and there are millions of starfish and the tide is going away. And if the starfish don't get back into the water, they'll die. And a man comes along and he's just tossing them the starfish up one at a time back into the water. A second man comes along and he goes up to the first guy and he says, "What are you doing? There's millions of starfish. You can't possibly expect to make a difference." And that first guy, he picks up another starfish, he throws it in the water and he says, "Well, I just made a difference to that one." And that is what motivates me every day. I just got to reach one because the ripple effect is real.
That's awesome. Leave it to the amazing librarian to hit us with a story. I know we got a story.
A stories for days.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What do your teachers like Miss Bruce? I had some good teachers, but your drive and your motivation is definitely what is needed, because there is that one student that, you know, will remember. Miss Bruce said to me that I can do, Mrs. Bruce said to me that I can do this, this, and that. So that is absolutely amazing. And that leads me to my next question about, so when I imagine that as you are interacting with your students, with the children, that you see something in them, right? I know because I know, like when I'm working with women and helping them build and do whatever, I see something. I'm like, there's something here, and we're going to work with it to take it to the next level. And usually for me, it's like I know that God has placed something in you. There's a purpose for you. So when I say to activate your purpose, what does it mean to you when I say activate your purpose?
For me, that means that I truly believe that everybody is good at something, that they have something that they are destined to do. It is already inside of you, right? Like it just has to come out. And so we talk about that a lot in the field of education, to activate your purpose, to find your passion. We talk about it with our young people because it's whatever it is, it's already in there, and it's our job to cultivate it, to help them explore so that it comes to the outside. And so for me, that's what it means. Find that thing. It's already there. We just got to ignite it and bring it out.
That's right. That's right. And how would you say that you have activated your purpose? And how does that kind of align with your brand and helping build your brand?
So it's so funny because I'm like, I believe my actual purpose is to destroy an entire school system. I would like to dismantle its current structure and rebuild it in a way that is equitable to everyone. And I saw you were like, when I said destroy, you were like, uh-oh. But that is my purpose, right? To reimagine education for everyone, to make it not a monolith, right? In terms of how we instruct. So how do I activate that purpose, or how have I activated that purpose? One is by being an educator. This was like, I never was going to be a teacher. Like this was not in the job description. Like I was going to be an attorney, like Johnny Cochran, for those of you who know who that is, or was, excuse me, like that's who I was going to be, the next Johnny Cochran. If the glove don't fit, you must have quit, right? But I was going to have my own phrase. I was going to be big bulling in the limos with entertainment. I was going to be an entertainment player, right? That was my path. That's what I thought my purpose was.
Mhm.
But I also love education. And so sometime in college, I switched after taking the LSAT. I switched to policy and things of that nature and social work. I went to grad school for policy. And it just kept furthering my investment. It kept igniting the thing that I was passionate about, which is helping our young people. And it just never stopped. And I keep reigniting it because I also switch what I do like every 5 years. So I've been in education for a long time, but my role changes all the time. I'm always looking for the next project or the next thing that's going to help me reach my goal, because eventually I'm going to get there. We're literally going to reimagine the school system.
I like that what you said about reignite. I actually recently celebrated 20 years in my 9 to 5, right? Every 6 to 7 years, right?
Mhm.
Figuring out what was next.
Mhm.
The place, the employment, the place of employment was working for me, right? So
Mhm.
it's like, what can I do next to continue to work towards my goal, continue to grow? So I like what you said about reigniting, because that's definitely important. Like, you don't have to be stagnant. Like, you can figure out what is the next thing. So speaking of the next thing, I saw something in your bio that piqued my interest, and I wanted to talk with you a little bit about. You are a member of the Baltimore City Mayoral Trauma Informed Care Task Force.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that and how that aligns with I think I can see the alignment, but I want you to talk about how that being a member of that aligns.
So the Mayor's Trauma Informed Care Task Force came about in 2020. Prior to that, there was, well, we got to go real far back. All right, y'all. So in about 2018, 2019, in one of our Baltimore City high schools, Frederick Douglass High School, there was a stabbing. And a staff member was injured by another member of the community right at dismissal. They were not killed, but as you can imagine, that was very traumatic for the student body. Students felt unsafe. And so our students talked to a trusted teacher at that school, and they decided to advocate. And so they wrote letters to city council people. And one of those city council people who picked up their letter and took on their cause was Councilman Zeke Cohen from District 1. And he worked with the young people to advocate on what they wanted in their school community. Because many of these kids were like, we don't need more guns. We like police. We don't need more of that. We need more services. We need more counselors. We need more therapists. We need more access to resources. That's what we need, right, in our schools. And so from that, the Elijah Cummings Healing City bill was presented to our city council. I mean, our young people testified, and it eventually became the Elijah Cummings Healing City Act. And a part of that act was that they create a trauma-informed care task force of 22, no, it might be more than that. I think we're 29 members, excuse me, but we're very big, that serves to give advice and to help guide government agencies to operate through a trauma-informed lens. So that's how that came to be. So an all call went out, like literally when we do task force, it goes out to the whole city. Anybody can join. It's comprised of students, teachers, I mean, people from all areas, medical field. I'm trying to think. I mean, we have people who have lived experiences working in peer recovery. We just have like a plethora of people from all these different fields who come together. And of course we have subcommittees. But when the call went out, I was like, well, one, I'm down to do anything that's going to help improve my city. Two, I believe in what the legislation pushes because of what it targets with our schools. It targets government agencies, but I know that the purpose of how this came about was through schools. And our young people do need those things that the children at Frederick Douglass were advocating for. All of our children need that. And so I said, you know what? I'm an educator. I'm in schools. I'm getting on this task force because I want to make sure that our agencies like Baltimore City Recs and Parks, right, who deal with children all the time, right? Like they're operating through a trauma-informed lens. Our subcommittee was working on making sure that our rec centers are healing spaces for our children, right? And so that's how I got there. I was like, oh, I'm going to apply, and I got the appointment.
See, y'all, I told y'all Theresa is doing doing amazing, all the things, amazing things, and not just being busy. She's out here being productive and really advocating for change. I was just talking to someone before, and we were just talking about how we as women sometimes don't give ourselves enough credit about just like how awesome we really are. And you know, I know sometimes I surprise myself, like, oh my goodness, how did I get that done? Like, I have receipts of what I've done. And ma'am, you have receipts, and I just want you to I just encourage you to keep doing the amazing work that you're doing. So with that, you're on the task force, you're pouring out, you're educating the students at school, you're pouring out, you're developing the new plan for what we're doing for the month within the library, you're pouring out. What do you do for restoration? And some people call it self-care. I've decided to retitle it restoration, because you're restoring and replenishing what you've been pouring out. What do you do for that?
I try to be intentional with certain routines. So I have a monthly membership at Massage Envy. So every month I get a massage. Every month I get a facial. If it's a summer month, you're gonna see my nails and my hair and my toes done, like done. In the winter, I don't got time for that. Ain't nobody looking at my bright colors anyways. You know, so those are some of the like more smaller but repeated things that I do. But additionally, I always make time to like talk to my girlfriends and be in my trusted group chat. We do check-ins and support each other. I love going on trips. So anytime there's a break, everybody's like, where you going next? Like, we have spring break starting next week. I'm going to New Orleans, right? Like, I'm out. I'll let y'all when I get back. And so that's what I do a lot. It's just being very intentional. And I also like reading books. I mean, go figure. I read a lot. Young adult fiction. It's the best.
So that leads into my next question is, what is the latest book, or do you listen to podcasts? I would think as a librarian, you like to read, to flip the pages. You listen to books, or you listen to podcasts?
I do not. So I'm a traditionalist. I like physical copies of books that I can read. I do not wish to hear them. I do not wish to, I don't like audio books because the voice, like, that's the thing you hear. I prefer making up how the characters sound in my head. I prefer envisioning those things on my own. And so that's why I struggle with audio books unless they're by the author. So Jason Reynolds, Long Way Down, great audio book to go with the text if you're young adult fiction. But yes, I'm a traditionalist.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to say, you look like you like to, same here. I like to flip the pages, and I need to put my little bookmark in it and come back to it.
I need to smell the page. I'm gonna. That's what I do.
I won't tell you how many books I've started and stopped, but I'm gonna finish them.
Well, I'm a binger. People say to me, like, what are you reading right now? And I'll be like, nothing. And they're like, what? Because I'm a binger. I will literally not read for like 2 months, and then in a weekend read like 6 books. 2 summers ago, I read 55 books in 30 days. Like, I'm a binge reader.
That's more than 1 book a day, Theresa.
Yes, but it's young adult fiction. It's only 300 to 400 pages a book.
Okay.
I do not like books written for adults. Self-help books, don't want it. Cookbook, don't want it. I don't need none of that. I want to go into the world of fantasy with my kids.
I like the world of fantasy because you could just go someplace else for a little bit.
Or even realistic fiction. I want to learn about somebody else's life.
So, do you watch reality TV? You a TV gal? Do you make time for TV?
TV? Yuck. No. I hate reality TV. I think no. Oh my goodness. It has too much going on for me. I become overstimulated with all they be doing. I be like, oh my God. How is this even real?
Like I said a bad word, but I said reality TV.
Yeah, I'm like TV. I have a personality where I binge things. So even with shows, I cannot, you know how back in the day, show come on Friday night, you gotta wait till next Friday to get to I can't live like that. I need it all at once. So if I do happen to choose a show on Netflix, I'm gonna binge that whole season like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like Bridgerton, wait till that come back. It's on. I love period pieces because history is what I taught for the longest time. So I love series that are based in like monarchies and the Victorian era and those things.
Awesome. Bridgerton's one of my favorites too. So definitely waiting for that next one. So last question before we wrap up. What is it that you would share with a woman who is, working on positioning herself in her career path? Maybe she's feeling stuck. Maybe she's thinking about pivoting, just like you pivoted a little bit. What would you say to her to kind of just to keep her going, a word of inspiration to keep her going?
Miss Frizzle. I don't know if anybody ever watched the Magic School Bus.
Yes, of course.
I love the Magic School Bus, but I would say what Miss Frizzle always said: take chances, make mistakes, get messy, because that's how you move forward. If you don't try, you'll never know and you'll never do. And nobody wants to live a life full of regrets. So what if you fail? Get back up and do it again.
That's
what
right.
my man, Nelson Mandela said. I either win or I learn. So that's what I would say.
We're gonna end on that note, because that is just drop the mic for y'all right there. Thank you so much, Theresa, for your time. Just thank you, and just for all the gems. And again, just for your amazing work in your community and in your city, Baltimore City. Just doing amazing things. So thank you again for your time. And I will connect with you again soon.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Did you enjoy that episode of Her Brand, Her Way? If so, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications so you don't miss the next one. Also, I hope that the discussion sparked inspiration within you, leaving you with new insights and ideas to ponder. I understand that building a brand is not always easy. You can quickly get in your way, and sometimes we need a little push or prompt to get us going. So I created just a quick free guide that provides 5 prompts that will help you jumpstart your personal brand. Check out the link in the description and see you next time.